Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello learners, welcome back to our course of microeconomics and its application. I am the course coordinator as well as the presenter, and my name is Dr. Aparna Samudra. I am associated with Rashtrasant Tukaroji Maharaj, Nagpur University. I welcome you back to the second lecture of our first unit. In this lecture, we would be discussing about a very interesting and probably the foundation of the microeconomics, the concept of demand. So, we will be today talking about that what is demand, what are the various factors or what are the various determinants of demand. Then, we will be talking about that what is an individual demand curve and what is a market demand curve. We will also understand that why does the demand curve move or why does it shift. So this is our objective of today's lecture. So let us start with defining demand. I'm sure all of you at one point or the other must have thought that I need to buy this thing. You go to the market, which may be a physical market, or you may buy something online. So whenever you are buying something, this means that there was a need for that product. Therefore, you bought that product. So in layman's language, whenever we say that I need and I'm buying, in economics we say it is demand. So let us see formally that what does demand mean. Demand indicates or it means that how much of a product a consumer are both willing and able to buy at each possible price during a given period of time, other things remaining constant. So what are we doing? We are trying to define the demand, and please have a very careful look at how we have defined demand. We say that demand is that how much of a product or a service a consumer is willing to buy as well as they are able to buy at each possible price during a given period of time. So, we can say the demand is what? Demand is you need something and you have the ability to buy something and you know at what price level I am going to buy and for a given period of time or in a given period of time. To understand this definition better, let us divide this definition in various components. First, if you carefully look at the definition of demand, it is saying that there are certain number of units are involved in demand. How much of a product consumers are willing and able to buy. Means whenever we are defining demand, we are talking about number of units. Second, we are talking about consumers. Who is going to buy? We are talking about somebody who is going to buy this product for the purpose of consumption. Now, when these consumers are, in the definition, if you see back carefully, we are saying consumers are both willing and able to buy. Means we are saying that consumers are they should be willing to buy. Means they need that product. They want that product. But it is not only the willingness which is going to, transform into demand. They must also have the ability to buy. Means they should be able to afford that product. They must have money in their pockets and then only their willingness will be converted into demand. For example, I may be willing to buy, let us say, a luxury car. But to buy that luxury car, I have to see whether I have that money which I need to buy that luxury car. if I do not have that money to buy that luxury car, even though I'm willing to buy that car, that demand will not get created. So, very important thing is that whenever consumers, we are talking about demand, we are saying that the consumers should be both willing as well as they should have the ability to buy. That is, they should be able to buy. They should be, they should afford to buy that product. Then, whenever we talk about demand, demand is always with a specific period of time. For example, today there are no potatoes or onions in your house. So you need to buy them. So you will consider that what is the price of the product today, and you go out and buy how much of onions and potatoes you want to buy today. Tomorrow you may not be needing that, even though you have money to buy, but there is no need. So in a particular period of time, how much number of units are required, that is again demand. So what we have said is that demand, let us again have a look. Demand in simple word means it is not only the willingness, but also it should be ability to buy certain number of units of a product in a given period of time. So what is demand, my dear learners? Demand is how much of a product consumers are willing to buy, and they also have the ability to buy the product or a service during a given period of time. So these three components are there whenever we are talking about defining demand. So once we have understood that what is demand, the very natural question comes to our mind is, it is okay, I need it. I should have ability to buy. But what are the various factors which are creating this need? What is it that is creating our ability to buy? Those are called as the determinants of demand, or they're also called as factors which affect the demand of a product. Now let us have a look at these determinants one by one. One of the most important determinant of demand of any product or service is its price. We have just seen in the definition that we are saying how much units of a good or a service a consumer is willing to buy, backed by ability to buy, will be determined by what is the price of the product. What is the cost of the product? If you go out in the market and you wish to buy something, what is the first question which you ask to the seller? Or even if you are surfing online and you are visiting an e-commerce marketplace, you are surfing for a product, you are looking for a product, what is the first thing which comes to our mind? We see that how much does it cost? What is the price of the product? So because price determines to a certain extent my willingness to buy. Similarly, price will also latently determine that whether am I able to afford this product or not. So the first important determinant of the demand of a product is its price. Second is the consumer's income. Why? Because ability to buy will come from how much money income I have. If my income is more, automatically I will be able to buy more of the same product because I can afford to buy. I may be able to afford an expensive product when my income increases, whereas if due to certain factors my income decreases, my demand for the same product may also change, it may also reduce, because my ability to buy, which is given by my income changes, hence my demand changes. Then tastes and preferences of the consumer, whether you like that product or not. You see, so many products get introduced in the market. You go out in any superstore, you are looking for a packet of biscuits, there will be n number of brands which are selling you those biscuits. You are looking for a car, the same company may be having 10 models, 10 different brands of the car. Whether you like it or not, will depend on the tastes and preferences of your consumer. If consumers like something, they would demand more of it. If they don't like, they will demand less of it. So it's a qualitative factor which is having an impact on demand. Fourth factor which has an impact on the demand of any product is the price of the other products. The first factor, my dear learners, we have seen is the price of the product. But when we talk about the fourth factor, we are saying it is the price of the other products also which has an impact on the demand of this product. Now, what are these other products? These other products may be related to this product, to this particular product in question by being a complement or a substitute. Now, what do we mean by a complement and substitute? A complement means any good, any two goods which are used together. For example, we say, let us say table and chair. Both of them are needed together. Yes, you need milk for your tea. Both of them are needed together. So when car and tires, car and petrol. So these two goods, when they are needed together, that is if you want to use one, you need the other. You cannot run your car without tires. So whenever you are buying a car or whenever a car is being manufactured, tires will also be needed. So what is the price of the other product with which I am using my primary product? That will determine the demand of this product as well. So when two products are used together, we call them as complements. The examples which I've just given to you, cars and tires, cars and petrol, table and chair, milk and tea, they all are used together. So the price of one has an impact on other. Let us say when the cars become expensive, people may want less of them. Okay, so automatically when the demand of this particular product, car has been changed, the demand for tires will also change. So maybe the price of the tires have not changed, but because cars have become expensive, I may mean buying less cars, and because I'm buying less cars, I'm needing less tires. So price of one has an impact on the other. They are called as complements. The other type of product in question are the substitutes. What are substitutes? When we are using one product instead of another. Let us say tea and coffee. One brand of biscuit compared to another brand of biscuit. So if the price of one changes, or let us say it becomes cheaper, automatically people may like to shift to the other product. So price of the other products, that is complements and substitutes, also have an impact on the demand. Then population size, because more people would mean more demand, less people would mean less demand. So these are called as the determinants of demand. Now let us move to another important concept which is related to the concept of demand is demand schedule. We have just seen that the most important factor which has an impact on the demand of any product is its price. So a demand schedule is a table that lists that what are the various quantities of a product or service a consumer is willing to buy given various range of prices. That is, if price is 1 rupees, how much am I willing to buy of that product? If price is 2 rupees, how much am I willing to buy of the product? If price is rupees 3, how much am I willing to buy of the product? So when we put it in a table, that table is called as a demand schedule. Now one such demand schedule, I have made it for you, where we have listed price per widget and quantity demanded per widget per day. That is, if the price is 5 rupees, how much am I buying? I am asking for 2 units. This is my quantity demanded of widgets when my price of widget is 5 rupees. Price, if is 4 rupees, the consumer says Okay, I'll buy 4 units of the widgets. When the price is 3, I'm saying, okay, I'll buy 6 units. So what do we see, learners? That at different price levels, the quantity demanded of these widgets is different. So this table, which is giving that at different prices, what is the quantity demanded of a product or service is called as a demand schedule. Now, this particular demand schedule, the points which we have just seen on the demand schedule, where we have taken price of widgets and the quantity demanded of widgets, these can be plotted on a graph. Now, this graph, in this particular graph that we will be drawing with help of the demand schedule, we will be taking on the vertical axis, that is the y-axis, the prices that are going to be taken, and the quantity demanded we will be taking on the horizontal axis or the x-axis. Each point on this graph is basically going to show you that how many units of the product or service an individual is willing to buy at different or at a particular price level. When you connect these points, which you have listed from your demand schedule, you get a curve. That curve is called as a demand curve. So what does the demand curve will be showing? The demand curve will be showing you that at different price levels, what is the quantity demanded of that good. So for example, if you plot, you can do it in your on your own also in your notebooks while looking at this, while seeing this lecture. We have taken price per widget on the vertical axis. We have taken quantity demanded of widgets on the x-axis. You are plotting that when price is, let us say 5, how much is your quantity? When your price is 4, how much is the quantity? So these are the various points which we got by using your demand schedule. And what do we get, my dear learners? What do you see? You see, what do you notice about this demand curve? Just give it a thought. Do you see what is the shape of this demand curve? How is it behaving? The demand curve is downward sloping. That is, what do you notice the relationship between price and quantity? We see that when the price is more, the quantity demanded is less. When the price is 5, the quantity demanded is 2. When the price is, let us say 1, quantity demanded is 10. So, the demand curve is downward sloping. So, one thing we notice about demand curve is that the demand curve is downward sloping, showing you an inverse relationship between what? Between the price and the quantity demanded. Now, the second question which comes in mind is, and you must be thinking also about it, that why does this relationship exist? Why does this happen? That when price changes or price reduces, the quantity demanded increases. Or when the price increases, quantity demanded decreases. What do you think? Give it a thought and I'll come back to it. One, we have just said, what do we see about the demand curve here? That the demand curve is sloping downward. Sloping downward means that people are normally willing to buy less of a product when the prices is high and more of a product when the prices are low. This relationship between the price and the quantity demanded of any product or service is termed as the law of demand. What is law of demand? Law of demand says that every other determinant, if it remains constant, there is an inverse relationship between the price and the quantity demanded. That is, if again we have a look at this curve, we saw that people were willing to buy more when the price was less, and people are willing to buy less when the price is more. Therefore, your demand curve has become downward sloping. That is, the willingness to buy of a good is less. You buy less quantity of a good when it is expensive. When the same thing becomes cheaper, we buy more of it. So that's the first thing. What is the second question? Why does it slope downward? Why is it that people buy less when price is high? And what makes them buy more when the price falls? So let us understand the reasoning behind it. The first reason for the downward sloping demand curve, or the inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded, arises because of what we call as substitution effect. What is substitution effect? It is the change in the relative price of the good, the price of one good compared to the price of other good, which causes the substitution effect. What is substitution effect? I will again tell you. Let us say there are two goods. Let us again go back to two products. Product in question, let us say, is tea. Okay, and the other product is coffee. Now let us say price of coffee increases. Okay, now these two are substitute goods. Tea and coffee are substitute goods. That is, you can either consume tea or you can either consume coffee. So they are taken as substitute, this or that. Okay, now let us say the price of this particular good in question, the price of this good changes. Let us say the price of coffee or price of tea, let us say, in this case, tea becomes expensive. Now, if tea becomes expensive, what will happen is that price of coffee has not changed, but tea has become expensive. So people would shift from consuming tea to consuming coffee. Why? Because relatively your coffee has become cheaper compared to tea. So there is a shift from one product to another product. Therefore, the demand of tea will fall. On the other hand, if price of tea reduces, people who were earlier consuming coffee, they will come back and consume more of tea. So the demand of tea will increase. Why it has increased? Because relatively the price of this product has changed compared to the price of the other product. It has become cheaper, so the demand of it has increased because people will shift from the other product to this particular product. So the price decreases. Because of substitution effect, demand of this product increases. Other is the income effect. We have just seen that demand gets created because there is ability to buy, because people are able to afford it. This means that income plays a role in creation of demand. How income effect comes into play? Now, there are two types of income we are talking. One is money income. For example, number of dollars or rupees somebody receives in a particular period of time. Okay. Other is real income. Real income means that how much of the good you can purchase with that money income. So, money income is either the dollars. If you are staying abroad, it may be dollars. If you are staying in India, it is rupees. So, how much are you earning in money terms is money income, whereas real income is the ability to buy. That is the purchasing power of the money income. How much of goods you can purchase is your real income. When the price of a product falls, you are able to buy more of the same product with the same amount of money. So automatically the quantity demanded increases. Let us say you are earning 100 rupees per day. Okay. And you are buying, let us say you are spending the whole amount of that money in, let us say, buying sugar. And the price of sugar is 10 rupees. So you were earlier buying with 100 rupees and the price of sugar being 10 rupees, you were able to buy 10 kgs of sugar. Now the price of sugar decreases from 10 rupees per kg to 5 rupees per kg. What will happen, learners? With the same 100 rupees, you will be able to buy 20 kgs of sugar. So with the fall in price of sugar, your ability to buy amount of sugar increased. Therefore, your quantity demanded of sugar went up. That is called as income effect. So with the fall in price, the real income, the purchasing power increases, therefore the quantity demanded increases, and vice versa. The third reason for downward slope in demand curve is diminishing marginal utility. What is marginal utility? Utility is basically means satisfaction. Any additional satisfaction which you derive from extra item being consumed is marginal utility. If you are eating one biscuit, you get some satisfaction. You eat another biscuit, that is a second biscuit, will again change your satisfaction. Third biscuit you eat, again there will be a change in satisfaction. So extra satisfaction or utility which you are getting by consumption of a product or any item is called as marginal utility. Now this marginal utility, we say, keeps on declining as you consume an additional item of the same product. For example, if you are having your first biscuit, it will give you a certain satisfaction. Second biscuit will give you satisfaction again, but not as much as the first gave you. You again consume the third biscuit, there will be some satisfaction, but not as much as the second gave you. There will come a point of time where you will say, I do not want to eat any extra biscuit. Therefore, why this happens is because your utility has declined with additional consumption of biscuits. Now, how is it related to demand curve? First biscuit, for example, you were very hungry, so you had the first biscuit. Because it gave you more, it was supposed to give you a satisfaction, a greater satisfaction, you are willing to pay a higher price for it. Again, when you take the second biscuit, you may not be willing to pay the same price as you paid for the first biscuit. Why? Because you know your hunger has satiated to a certain level. So you may be willing to pay a lesser price for the second biscuit. Okay. Now, because if this becomes cheaper, because we are comparing what? We are comparing price with your marginal utility. When something becomes cheaper, you say, I will consume till the price equates to my marginal utility. So when the price was 5, you are equating it to your marginal utility. So when the price decreases, you compare it with the lower marginal utility and you are willing to buy more of it, because a lower marginal utility, for lower marginal utility, you want to pay a lower price. So more satisfaction, or lesser satisfaction, lesser price, more satisfaction, more price. So when price decreases, you compare it to a lower marginal utility and you increase your demand. So that is the reason for downward sloping demand curve. Now another important thing we should know is that how change in price brings a change in your demand curve. We have just seen that there are 5-6 determinants of demand, and demand curve gives the relationship between price and quantity demanded. So whenever there will be a change in price, we will see you are moving from one point to another point. Okay, so a change in price will bring a movement on the demand curve, that is from one point to another point. Whereas, if there is a change in other determinants, what are those other determinants? Means it may be the change in income, it may be the change in price of related goods, it may be the change in your taste and preferences, it may be the change in population. So when other factors, other determinants except price change, we will see that the entire demand curve will shift. Okay, as I just told you, what are these determinants? Consumers buy more or less, any and all, at all the prices. So your demand curve will shift either outside or rightward. Or when consumers buy less, your demand curve will shift inwards or leftward. So please keep in mind the shift and the movement of the demand curve. There will be a change in the demand curve. A shift means factors other than the price have changed, so the entire demand curve may shift outside or it may shift inside. Whereas if other factors are not changing, it is only the price which is changing, the movement will be on the same demand curve. Now let us see this graphically. This is your demand curve. So you see these 2 points C and F. Let us say price is 7 rupees 10 paisa. So this is point F. You are buying certain demand of this good. Price, let us say, goes up from 7 rupees 10 paisa to 7 rupees 30 paisa. You move from point F to point C, and the quantity demanded is lesser. This is called as the movement along the curve. Why has this movement taken? Why have you shifted from point C to point F? Because the price has changed from 7 rupees 30 to 7 rupees 10 or vice versa. So the movement on the curve has taken place because price of the product has changed. The other is shift of the demand curve. That is, the demand curve is moving from D0 to D1. That is, at the same price of 7 rupees 30 paisa, the consumer is buying more now. So that is leading to a shift. So shift, my dear learners, is taking place because factors other than the price are changing. When consumers buy more, the demand curve will shift outside. When consumers are buying less at the same price level, the demand curve will shift inside. Let us see this again. So if, let us say in the previous example, we have seen that the demand curve has shifted outside. Why it may have shifted outside? Because consumers' income increases. People have a greater ability to pay. So when they have a greater ability to pay, at the same price level, they may be willing to buy more. Hence, the demand increases. This increase in demand leads to an outward shift of your demand curve, as we have just seen in the previous slide. Second reason may be population increases. More number of people are there. Demand will increase. Outward shift again. Consumer preferences, taste and preferences change, and they become in favor of this product. For example, if you remember, when the pandemic started, there was a sudden increase in demand of your sanitizers because people preferred to use more of sanitizers. So the demand will increase, and again we will see an outward shift of your demand curve. So remember, the movement on the demand curve will take place, which is also called as change in quantity demanded. This will take place whenever price changes. If determinants other than the price will change, then we will see the shift of the demand curve. So these are some examples of the shift of the demand curve. That is, the initial demand curve was D0. It shifted outside. Consumer income increases, taste and preferences in favor of the product, population increases. You see the shift happening outside. On the other hand, we see a shift happening in the B panel. If you see, the shift is happening inside from D0 to D2. If you see the A panel, it is an outward shift because the demand of the product has increased because factors other than the price were in its favor. Whereas in panel B, we see a shift inside from D0 to D2 because reverse has happened. Income of the consumers has decreased. Taste and preferences are not in favor of this product. Population has decreased. Price of the related goods has changed. So we see an inward shift of the demand curve. So again, I'm telling you that the changes in the factors other than the price cause the demand curve to shift either left or right, depending whether more is demanded or less is demanded. Please keep in mind this is happening because factors other than the price are changing. Okay, let us take the example once more to clear this concept. Let us say income of the consumers decline after a cyclone hits an island. So if this was your demand curve initially, it will go inside. Why? Because income has declined. Another example, price of related goods has changed. The price of tea decreases and tea is a substitute good for coffee. So what will happen is demand for coffee will decline. Price of coffee has not changed. It is the price of tea, which is a related good, which is a substitute for coffee. Its price has changed, but it has an impact on the demand of coffee, and the demand of coffee will decline and the demand curve of coffee will shift inside. So this is a self assessment exercise which I am giving to you. Dear learners, just write down a story, draw the changes in demand based on this story and explain why the demand has changed. Pick up make a story of an island, of your own story, of your friend's story, and see that what are the factors which affect the demand of this product and why the demand of the product may change and whether it will shift inside or whether it will shift outside. So summarizing today's lecture, what all we have discussed today, we have defined demand. We said demand is what? Demand is a need of a product backed by the ability to buy at a given price at a given period of time. So what is demand? Demand is need backed by ability to buy, keeping in mind a particular price level as well as a duration of time period. Then we saw that there is an inverse relationship between price of a product and its quantity demanded. That is, when the price of a product decreases, its quantity demanded increases and vice versa. This happens, we have seen, is because of substitution effect, because of income effect, and because of law of diminishing marginal utility. Then we saw that what are the things which lead to what are the determinants or what are the reasons as to why demand curve may shift. So we differentiated between movement of the demand curve and shift of the demand curve. Movement on the demand curve takes place because other factors remain same, but it is the price of the product which is changing. So you move from one point to another point on the demand curve. Whereas a change in the demand leads to a shift in the demand curve. And this shift happens. This shift can be an outward shift. This shift can be an inward shift. Factors other than the price when they change, this leads to the shift in the demand curve.